Many students feel a little intimidated by the idea of having to work with a research advisor during their dissertation or thesis. Similarly, students often struggle to connect with their advisor and feel that the relationship is a little awkward. But this doesn't need to be the case. In this video, we'll share 5 best practices to help you maximize this important relationship and pave the way for a smoother research journey. Hey, my name's Emma, and in this video, we'll dissect the oftentimes intimidating research advisor relationship so that you can approach your research project with confidence. If you're currently working on a dissertation or thesis, be sure to also check out our collection of free templates covering everything from the research proposal to the literature review, methodology, and more. And with that out of the way, let's dive into the video. As you embark on your research journey, it's useful to understand that each and every university will have slightly different expectations, rules, and norms in terms of the research advisor's role. Similarly, each advisor will have their own way of doing things, preferences, quirks, and so on. This brings us to best practice number 1, which is to map out each of your roles and responsibilities as early as possible. In practical terms, it's a good idea to initiate this sort of conversation with your advisor at the very start of the relationship. Ideally, your very first meeting. In this discussion, you'll want to cover things like your goals, their expectations, and how they want to work with you. Of course, you might not necessarily like what you hear, but this sort of candid conversation will help you get on the same page as early as possible and lay the foundation for a successful relationship. To help you get started, here are some questions you might consider asking your supervisor. How often would you like to meet, and for how long? What should I do to prepare for each meeting? What aspects of my work will you comment on, and what won't you cover? Which key decisions should I get your approval for beforehand? How can I help make this partnership as effective as possible? My academic goals are, do you have any suggestions at this stage to help me achieve this? As you can see, these types of questions will help you get a clear idea of how the two of you will work together and how to make the most of the relatively limited face time you'll have together. Beyond this, asking these types of questions also show that you value the relationship and take it seriously, which sets a good tone right from the start. As with any relationship, strong communication is crucial to making the student-supervisor relationship work. A dissertation is a complex, intricate project, and so communication is more important than ever. This brings us to best practice number 2, which is to agree upon a regular communication cycle. In practical terms, you'll want to set a regular meeting schedule and stick to it. Don't cancel or reschedule appointments at short notice or do anything that suggests you don't value your supervisor's time. Egos can be a little fragile within the world of academia, so it's important to demonstrate that you value and respect your supervisor's time. To get the most from each session, be sure to prepare for every meeting with a clear agenda. In these sessions, you'll typically discuss your progress, challenges, and any questions you have. So good prep is essential. When engaging with your advisor, be open and honest in your communication. Don't be afraid to ask questions or look stupid. Most importantly though, be receptive to their feedback. A key part of your advisor's role is to tell you when you're missing the mark. So don't get upset or defensive when they criticize your work. Remember, they're criticizing the work, not you personally. In a sea of poorly prepared students, nothing will impress your supervisor more than you having a preliminary project plan ready on day 1, which makes this best practice number 3. Investing the time to develop a plan of action, even if it's a relatively basic one, shows that you take your project seriously, which will of course make a positive first impression. Having a project plan also helps your supervisor understand your intended timeline, which means the two of you can better align your schedules. Now, it's worth mentioning that you don't need a super detailed plan at this stage, but you should at least have a first draft type plan that demonstrates some proactive thinking on your part. In your first meeting with your supervisor, ask for their input and revise your plan accordingly so that you've got a clear pathway ahead. one that you've both agreed on. Of course, it's unlikely that you'll stick to your plan 100% of the time, but this plan will at least lay a foundation for effective collaboration between you and your advisor. It will also help them spot any potential issues with your approach early on. Remember, an imperfect plan beats no plan at all. All right, on to best practice number 4. One surefire way to quickly annoy your advisor is to pester them every time you run into a problem. Unexpected challenges are par for the course when it comes to research. How you deal with them is what matters. Therefore, best practice number 4 is to always engage with problems proactively. In practical terms, this means that when you run into unexpected problems, which you most certainly will, you'll need to resist the urge to immediately send a panicked email to your supervisor, no matter how massive the issue may seem at the time. Instead, take a step back and assess the situation as holistically as possible. Force yourself to really sit with the issue for at least a few hours to ensure that you have a clear, accurate assessment of the issue at hand. In most cases, a little time, distance, and deep breathing will reveal that the problem is not as life-threatening as you originally thought. When reaching out to your supervisor, try to present both the problem and 1 or 2 potential solutions. The second bit is the most important part here. You need to show that you've engaged with the issue and applied your mind to finding potential solutions. Sure, your solutions may miss the mark, but providing some sort of solution is better than just impulsively throwing the problem at your supervisor, hoping that they'll save the day. Simply put, unexpected challenges present an opportunity for you to demonstrate your initiative and problem-solving skills. So whenever a crisis emerges, take a deep breath and remember that it's time to show what you're made of. All right, on to our final best practice. As with any partnership, it's always possible that some level of disagreement or conflict will arise between you and your research advisor. Of course, you can drastically reduce the chance of this happening by implementing some of the points we looked at earlier. But if a serious disagreement does arise, it's absolutely essential that you approach it with professionalism and respect. Therefore, best practice number 5 is to always take the diplomat's approach to conflict. In practical terms, this means that you need to communicate your concerns to your supervisor as they arise. Don't let problems sit and fester. When raising your concerns, it's particularly important that you keep your mind open to understanding your supervisor's perspective. In other words, approach the conversation with the aim of understanding, not winning. Remember that you are the less experienced researcher within this duo, so a little humility can go a long way. Now at this point, you're probably thinking, but what if my supervisor is just being completely unreasonable? Well, if you feel that you've exhausted all possible avenues as diplomatically as possible and still can't find an acceptable middle ground, you can, of course, reach out to your university and ask for their intervention. But, and this is a big but, this should be the very last resort. Running to your university every time there's a small disagreement will not serve you well. You'll just lose credibility and create more friction between yourself and your advisor. All right, we've covered quite a lot in this video. Let's quickly recap on our 5 best practices. First up, get clarity about the roles and responsibilities on day 1. Second, decide on and stick to a regular communication cycle. Third, get your supervisor's input on your project plan as early as possible. Fourth, don't make your problems their problems. And last but not least, take the diplomat's approach to conflict. Remember, your advisor is there to help you, but you still need to put in the work. In many cases, they'll also be the first marker of your dissertation or thesis, so it really pays to put in the effort and build a strong relationship with them. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also, be sure to grab a free copy of our dissertation chapter templates to help you fast track your writing. As always, you can find the link in the description.